The Audra Winter situation just keeps getting kind of weirder. And not the fun kind of weird. The kind of weird where when you look at it, the more in depth you go, the less it feels like a book project and more it looks like something else entirely. This thing's been buzzing around since 2021 and it seemed fairly normal. An indie author ambitious starting a project that needed work, but also might have potential. But here we are, years later, a failed book launch, and instead of progress on the actual writing, what we're watching unfold looks more like a startup launch by a tech bro. And that shift, away from story and towards spectacle, raises some major red flags. My name is Darv James, and welcome to this episode of The Board Book Geek. I have strep throat. Remember to check out Substack, Patreon, and YouTube memberships. But also, if you want, just hit the like button, leave a comment, and add to the conversation, because I'm really curious what you guys are thinking about this project right now. So, Audra Winter started working on this project as we know it in 2021, although the book, in some form or another, has existed for a decade. That's 4 years ago by now. And at that point, you would expect either a finished book or at least a polished draft making its way through the editing stages. But instead she released an unedited, poorly constructed, hard-to-read manuscript. But now the focus has shifted entirely into everything around the book. The company, the visuals, the rebrand. And when criticism started coming in, and to be fair, some of the criticism has been kind of personal. We don't want personal criticism. But instead of engaging with the good criticism, she deleted it. Not just the mean comments, but everything. The feedback, the critique, even the constructive stuff. Clean slate. Which, in my opinion, said a lot. It's not about improving the book, it's about controlling an image. The editing and reading process now is happening on Patreon. If you want to give feedback, you have to be paid to be part of the circle. And if your feedback is harsh, if it's critical, you're removed. That means only voices left in the room are yes people. And honestly, that's a recipe for disaster, because the only way a book actually improves is through hard feedback. You don't want a hug circle, you want a boxing ring. If you strip that away, all you're doing is building an echo chamber where every draft looks brilliant, even every idea is flawless. What makes it stranger is the Patreon itself. She's got over 800 members at this point, but only 10 of those are paying subscribers. For someone who's supposedly updating regularly, that's off. Normally, if people have a project, those numbers scale much better, which suggests that most of the engaged audience isn't convinced by what they're being shown. Now, here's a bigger red flag. Audra is seeking $70,000 to fund what she's calling a multimedia project. Not a novel, a multimedia project. That right there tells you everything about what's going on. We're not talking about hiring a freelance editor or paying for layouts or covering printing costs or whatever she's doing. We're talking about building an entire brand ecosystem. Visuals, staff, expansion, spectacle. And if you've been around the indie community for a while, you know how rare it is for every author to succeed. And how rare it is for authors to pull in numbers like that. Most debut indie projects run small. Tight budgets, their labour of love, they've grown slowly and organically. So when someone comes in asking for that amount of money while deleting critiques, probably, in my opinion, surrounding themselves with yes people and focusing entirely on the aesthetics, that doesn't look like an author trying to publish a book. It looks like a pitch deck. And again, it comes back to the visuals. Multiple artists early on, heavy investment in aesthetics while the book was still messy, updates that seemed to focus on art and design and company announcements almost. Very little about the actual writing process, even the editor Q&A deleted. The cover, though, I will give full credit, is nice. I like the cover, but a nice cover doesn't carry a hollow project. Audra herself has shifted too. She no longer presents like a writer grinding away at a draft. She presents like a startup founder selling the idea of a product that doesn't exist yet. And that's why so many people are side-eyeing this. This isn't the first time we've seen this play out. Think about the overhyped Kickstarter projects that promised a book, a game, a comic, and then pivot into something bigger and shinier while the original product never materializes. Lots of art, lots of branding, lots of promise, but no substance. And on the flip side, look at indie authors who succeed long term. They write first, they take the painful critiques, they build slowly. They treat every dollar from readers like it matters, because it does. There's a difference between a book and a pitch. And here's where I land on this. I firmly believe this is no longer about writing a book. This is about raising money, about creating a flashy multimedia brand and milking as much as possible from people who genuinely want to support authors, which to me makes it harmful because indie publishing is built on trust. Readers back indie books because they believe the author, in the story, in the words. Most indie writers don't have a $70,000 budget or a team of artists or a team around them. They have passion, long nights, and the humility to take critique and get better. When a project like this shows up, deleting feedback, surrounding yourself with yes people, and putting writing behind a paywall, and asking for a huge sum of money for multimedia while the novel is a mess and this edited version is nowhere in sight, it erodes the trust that should be created. It makes readers wary of supporting anyone in indie spaces, and that hurts good people, the real writers who are trying to share their stories. So yeah, the Audra Winter situation, it's not just weird anymore, it's damaging. And unless the focus shifts back to writing, I don't think this book will ever be anything worthwhile. I think there's more to this, and I think there's going to be more coming out. Just call it my gut instinct at this point. So what I'm going to say at this point is, if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe and tell me what you think in the comments below. If you want exclusive content or want to just support me, if you want, you don't have to. A comment and a like is more than enough. Share this video with your friends. But if you do want to support, you can check out Patreon, YouTube memberships, and Substack, early access, and a handful of exclusives as well. And next time you hear me, I won't have a strep throat. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.